When the King of France was informed in what manner these freebooting troops overran and pillaged his kingdom, he was much enraged. The Chronicle of Jean Froissart. Part 1. The Wolf of Burgundy. Eastcheap, London, 1395. Three smilers with knives hidden under their cloaks lured Jean Froissart down an alley with promises of cheap whores at the end of it, and there beat and robbed him. When he awoke, groaning at the pain coursing through his battered body, it was to find that they had taken his purse, boots of Spanish leather, hat and jeweled dagger. To cap all, they had also pissed on him, ruining his fine doublet of Italian silk. At least, he reflected as he picked himself up, they had left him his vellum, quills and ink. Clutching these to his chest, he limped disconsolately down the muddy street until he found a tavern. A rusting ploughshare hung from a pole above the doorway, and the sound of music and the stench of stale beer drifted from inside. Froissart would not normally deign to set foot in such a rough-looking place, but he needed something to calm his shattered nerves. Inside, a rabble of musicians were clustered by the fire, playing something crude but merry on pipes and zithers. There were also a few other customers scattered about the rough benches, but none of them even glanced up from their mugs as he limped inside. He spent the last few pennies the robbers left him on ale and a hunk of hard black bread, and sat down in a corner to listen to the music and wait for the smell of urine on his clothes to fade away. "Damn it," he muttered, risking a mouthful of the unpleasant ale and dabbing carefully at his tender eye. A shadow fell across him. "May I join you?" asked a man's voice, husky and growling as though he had something stuck in his throat. Froissart looked up and ran his eyes over a stocky figure with a seamed, weather-beaten face and streaks of grey in his thinning, slick-back hair. He wore an old brigandine, much worn and stained, cracked boots, and a falchion at his hip. Despite his obvious poverty, the man seemed to consider himself something of a fop. He wore a greasy red scarf tied at a jaunty angle about his neck and a gold stud in his right ear. Chunky rings made of some cheap imitation gold adorned the index and ring fingers of both hands. He also sported an impressive set of greying whiskers, neatly trimmed and oiled. Froissart was an expert at identifying military men. He judged this to be an ex-mercenary who had probably spent his best years marching and plundering in the sunny climes of mainland Europe, but was now down on his luck. He sighed. The man was grinning at him, showing thick yellow teeth, and was clearly there to stay. "Please," he replied, gesturing at the stool next to him. "I know you," the man said in the same throaty tone as he sat down and twisted off a piece of bread without asking. "I saw you in Aquitaine and Aragon, though we never spoke. You are Jean Froissart, the scribbler. What are you doing in England?" Froissart suppressed his anger at being called a scribbler and studied his new companion more closely. "Forgive me, but I don't recognize you," he said, carefully. "Tell me your name and perhaps I will tell you something about me." "Absolument. My name is Thomas Page, known in the days of my glory as the half-hanged man or the Wolf of Burgundy." Froissart hooted derisively, startling the drinkers in the next stall. "Oh, but that is ridiculous," he exclaimed. "The wolf died in Nigeria, everybody knows that." "It's the truth, and I can prove it." He pulled aside the crimson scarf. His neck underneath was sinew, and none too clean, and disfigured by a faded but still visible burn mark that ran all the way around, bisecting his throat. Froissart was still not convinced. "So you bust a scar on your neck, just like the half-hanged men," he said scornfully. "But that does not prove anything. You could be some rogue who survives the gallows and thought he could trade off on a dead man's name." "A rogue? Me?" The other man looked shocked and placed his palms flat against his chest.